think I just took my health for granted, being really honest with you. I think it was that. And, you know, I don't have any friends of my age. You know, I do know other people, obviously, who've had breast cancer, but not kind of my peers or my peer group or people of my age. So I just think it just didn't really factor on my radar, which I know is, like, looking back, I'm just like, how? Because now I know so much more about it.
There is a great piece up on the Times app alerting you to the dangers of ignoring what could be the symptoms of breast cancer. The Labour MP for Bangor Aberconwy told the Sunday Times that she ignored a lump in her breast after thinking that she must be too young to have cancer. Claire Hughes found out she had triple negative breast cancer last October while in post as a Minister and Government Whip. And after a mastectomy and courses of both chemotherapy and radiotherapy, she has since been given the all clear and joins us in the studio now, Claire. It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in person. Tell us about the initial reaction you had to a slightly kind of sore point of your body under your arm, which you describe in the piece in the Sunday Times as being found when you were wandering across the parliamentary estate.
As you do, yeah. So I was just coming down from a meeting down to a central lobby where we go into the chamber, and I think it was just a bit of absent-minded thought, oh, something's like aching under my armpit. You know when you've got swollen glands? And so I just kind of like, you know, prodded it. And when I got home that evening, I thought, you know, I'll prod it again because it was a bit sore. And in that kind of prodding, I was like, oh, it seems to be like a little lump underneath. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just wait and see because maybe it's hormonal, you know, I'll just give it a bit of time. And it was still there. So I was a bit like, okay, well, you know, I really should go to the doctors. But, you know, I was busy. So then I ended up thinking, well, I will, you know, I just wasn't that concerned about it. I just, you know, I think I said in the piece, I know it's daft looking back, like the way I rationalised it, but like a friend of mine had quite recently been and had a lump checked out, and hers was a cyst. So in my mind I was like, you know, I should probably do the right thing. I'll go and get it checked out, but probably, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. I just generally wasn't worried. So yeah, I kept checking, it was still there, and then I thought, oh, I'll go in recess, you know, in the summer, and I actually eventually did go make that appointment.
How far away was recess from the time that you found the lump?
I think it was probably 5-6 weeks, something like that. Yeah, it was, or maybe even pushing 2 months, probably. By the time I actually went, you know, I made the appointment and then went, it's probably getting towards the end of August, because or maybe it's middle of August, because then when I got the appointment to go through for the referral to the one-stop shop at the hospital where you can go and get you give you a mammogram, and then if needed then an ultrasound and then a biopsy. I remember saying, when I'm going on holiday end of August, it must be middle of August, so can I not have it then? And then I got the appointment through for that. And then I was like, well, actually, can I just do it in conference recess because I don't want to, you know. So It's just always like pushing it back.
And was some of that your brain actually shutting down the negative possibilities?
I don't actually think it was, if I'm really honest. I think I was so blasé. Like, I really think I was at that point, which is when I went for that referral, and then they get, you know, I could tell from their faces, you know, I came out of that one-stop shop, the three things, thinking, oh no, you know, I'm pretty sure I've got cancer. I mean, obviously I had to wait a week for the results. That's when it was all of a sudden, you know, I was like, oh, I kind of thought I was just going to go in there, and they go, no, we've given it a check, we've looked, it's all fine. You know, I just generally didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think that honestly I didn't worry until that point, yeah.
I do love the detail that you've just given us there, though, that a friend of yours had the all clear and she had a cyst, and therefore that would be
must
fine.
be me, yeah.
I mean, that's just so bonkers, isn't it? Because we're all completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
You also say in the piece that that part of it, though, was the fact that you were young, you are young, and just tell us a little bit about that thought process.
Yeah, I think I just... not just being young, but I've always been healthy. Do you know what I mean? I've been incredibly lucky throughout my life I've never had any health conditions. I've probably gone to the doctors like twice, 3 times in 10, 15 years. You know, I've just glided through life, you know, and being healthy. So I think that's why it didn't really register as a risk for me. You know, I think I just took my health for granted, being really honest with you. I think it was that. And I don't have any friends of my age. I do know other people obviously who've had breast cancer, but not kind of my peers or my peer group or people of my age. So I just think it just didn't really factor on my radar, which I know is like, looking back, I'm just like, how? Because now I know so much more about it.
And the statistics are there, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they are. I think I just hadn't really engaged with it. I just hadn't, I did occasionally check my breast. It's not like I'd never checked them. I just didn't really, the importance of it for someone of my age, at 45, 46 as I was then, it just hadn't really kind of sunk in. I just didn't take it seriously enough.
Sure. You were diagnosed then with triple negative breast cancer. What does that mean?
Basically, it is a type of breast cancer that doesn't have any hormone receptors. So, I'm no huge expert in it, but basically, it does restrict the types of treatment you can have. So with a hormone positive breast cancer, then you would have you'd have the option to be able to have potentially like hormones ongoing. So when some people finish their treatment and then they're on a drug long term with hormones, but with a triple negative breast cancer, that isn't an option. I think typically triple negative breast cancers, they tend to be more aggressive and faster growing. So mine was a grade 3, so not a stage 3, but a grade 3, which just meant it was basically quite aggressive. But I think that's quite typical of triple negative breast cancer.
Is it possible to know whether or not your treatment would have been different if you'd been to the doctor the same day that you found that lump?
I don't think in my case it would have been, because when I had the first part of my treatment was a lumpectomy, where they went to remove the lump, and in doing that they also remove, I think it was 3 lymph nodes in your armpit to test there, and they found what's called micrometastases. I'm probably saying that wrong, but micromets basically, so tiny fragments. I think it was in 2 of the lymph nodes, but it's such a small amount that micromets, they don't really class that as then having spread. So the fact that it was in 2 out of 3, it was like, I'm obviously vastly oversimplifying it, but probably, I was incredibly lucky as always, like just in time. So I don't think in my case, it would have made a difference. But, potentially a couple of weeks longer could have done,
Yeah, you were told not to Google triple negative cancer because of all of the stuff that's out there, but I bet you did.
Of course I did, yeah. I mean, evenings on end, it's hard not to, isn't it? You especially when you initially have that diagnosis, when I had that, I mean, the worst times for me were that initial week waiting for the results, when I kind of, as I said, when I really thought, oh no, I'm pretty sure I've got breast cancer. And then, even then, I was actually rationalising it, though. Like, I remember coming home and saying to my partner, by the way, I think I've got breast cancer, but don't worry. Like, of all the ones, it's a good one to get. I mean, I can't believe I actually said that, it's... but again, I was rationalising it to myself and trying to, calm my own brain down, I guess, so it was okay. But yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time Googling it and, looking on Reddit and whatever else, because you can't, you're just trying to grasp some control of the situation, I think, because it's, anyone in any job, right? You're used to having a degree of control over what you do every day, and all of a sudden you get this, diagnosis, and it just throws everything, out, and you're just desperately seeking information, trying to make sense of things.
I'd imagine just overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming. And you have been very honest about the treatment that you received, and what was going to be a lumpectomy then became something more? Yeah,
because I had the lumpectomy first, which is basically when they try and just remove the initial area of the tumour, and then they look to see what's called the margins, so the edge of the lump, and there was still cancer in the bit that they took out, essentially. So had a meeting with my surgeon, who was incredible, I have to say, amazing, can't speak highly enough of her, and then basically went through the results, and they basically said, well, it's kind of up to you, we could try again, or we can go for a mastectomy, because then we would kind of know that we'd get it all. And I was like, let's just go for the mastectomy, please. We had a good discussion about it. But yeah, fantastic surgeon. At that point, she was like, well, okay, that's fine, I'll book you in for the mastectomy. If you change your mind, that's absolutely fine. You don't, even if it's on the day or in the morning, I'm basically saying that it's your decision, and we talked about it together. But then I had that, and again, thank God that I had that, because when I had the results from that, it turns out that there was another like smaller tumour behind it that they hadn't seen. So again, thank God that I had the mastectomy.
Yeah. So you might have eventually needed that.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
or that cancer could have spread.
Mm-hmm.
Something very good is happening about our ability to talk about breast cancer treatment now. And in fact, I noticed the other evening on TV, I was watching an advertisement, and I can't even remember what it was for. So that's not great for the company that have paid for the advert. But it was featuring, let's say it was moisturiser or deodorant or something like that. It was featuring lots of women, and very openly displays somebody who's had a mastectomy, which actually, Claire, even 5 years ago would have been unthinkable, wouldn't it? So all of this, your ability to talk very openly about it, it changes our level of fear, doesn't it, about what we might find when we're just feeling our breasts and trying to make sure that they're healthy. Yeah. That's got to carry on, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more that we can talk about these things, to my mind, it's got to be better, because you've got to, exactly, take away the fear, demystify it a little bit, and it's good to know, obviously, isn't it? I mean, we always want people to check their chest regularly, find out what's normal, and then obviously don't do like me, go to your doctor as soon as you can. But it's good to know that, there are treatments out there, that treatments have come on so much. Like you were saying, 5-10 years ago, my diagnosis might have meant quite a different outcome. But it's, I think it's just reassuring. And to know other people are going through the same kind of things as you, and there is so much support out there. There are some fantastic charities, whether it's Breast Cancer Now, Maggie's, etc., who can just give a lot of support along the way.
But at the same time, Claire, I also think it must feel quite frustrating when you imagine that people will always want to talk to you about one of the worst times of your life. You are a Labour MP, you've got a very busy working life, a very successful career. There are other things going on for you, aren't there?
Yeah, but it's not frustrating. I think, if I can help one day, I'm not going to say who, somebody knocked on my door, and basically said, how did you find your breast cancer? Because I've noticed this change. It wasn't a lump, it was something else. But now, again, I had no idea until I was diagnosed and spent a lot more time reading about breast cancer. The other things, such as like rashes or changes to the shape of the breast or dimpling, things like that, can also indicate cancer. Because she said, I've got this thing as well. And I was just like, go to the doctors. It's like, I'm very lucky as well. I live really close to my GPs. But I was just like, just go and get it checked out. But, I thought, and that's almost what inspired me to talk about it and actually to do the little film that I've made, because I was like, if I can just help one person to think, actually, it is scary, but it is doable. Claire seems like she's doing all right. But, if I could, and also just reassure someone, just go and get it checked. It'd probably be nothing, but it's just worth doing that, because we know that the earlier people get diagnosed, the better their outcomes will be.
Last week there was some research out from Cambridge University and the Institute of Cancer Research that showed breast cancer screenings for under 50s are missing up to 95% of high-risk individuals. Why is that happening?
Well, I think there's lots of different research going on, isn't there? So that came out last week, and I think what I've noticed again is that there seems to be a little bit of a difference of opinion between different charities in terms of, what the best approach to screening might be. I think there's other research going on into like more targeted screening, so people who might have different risk profiles, etc. So I think there's definitely I was really surprised to hear that breast cancer is still the biggest disease-related cause of death for women under 50. That was really surprised about that. Again, I don't know why I hadn't kind of registered with me before.
And high-risk individuals would be women who are carrying the
BRCA gene. For the triple-negative breast cancer as well, black women. It's far more prevalent in black women. Young women do seem to be more affected by it, premenopausal women. But family history, some lifestyle factors as well can have an impact. So I think there's lots of research happening around that. And there's debate, there's no common consensus, but I think what's really important is that research is happening and that evidence is gathering, and that whatever changes might be brought in the future are kind of evidence-led. I think that's obviously really, really important.
Did you work all the way through after your diagnosis and through the treatment?
I worked as often as I could, and after the surgery, it was obviously, after both surgeries, there was a recovery time. I have to say, there's not many jobs where you can actually sit in your living room and put Parliament TV, put TV on and watch what's going on in your place of work. So in a way, it was quite nice because I could still be connected, so that was good. During chemo, then I had 3 weekly cycles. So I tend to I'd have 1 week where I felt awful and didn't do anything. I was mostly just in bed or, just lying around realistically, or just trying to get out for a walk once a day, but feeling pretty poorly. Second week, I kind of felt better. And then the third week, I felt more or less normal. So that third week, I would tell my team, give me stuff to do. I'll go out and do a few bits and pieces. Obviously, throughout being really mindful that you've got to be very careful because you're immunocompromised. So I wasn't going down to Westminster to vote. I had a proxy vote so that somebody was voting underneath my instruction. But yeah, that third week I was able to do, as much as possible. And throughout, obviously lots of the casework and stuff we do over email. There's lots of reading you can do. So yeah, I did work throughout. And in a way, again, it was a very welcome distraction. To be able to do that. And I'm privileged to have been able to do that.
And how are you now?
I'm really well. So I'm always looking around. There's some wood for me to touch somewhere, but
wood inside the plastic.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
tapping it for you.
But no, I'm really well. I think the main difference I've noticed is that I just feel a bit achy. Do you mean I feel stiffer? And I think that's because basically I've jumped into early menopause, or not that early, sudden menopause, I should say. And I think again I've learned that because the estrogen drops very quickly, then that affects your joints, etc. So that's why I just feel, can feel achy in the mornings, like my legs and stuff. But other than that, I genuinely feel, I don't want to jinx it, but I genuinely feel really well. I'd say 98% back to how I felt before, I think. Other than the kind of stiffness and then I feel really well.
Yeah, well, that can creep up on you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Claire, it's really lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. And as Claire mentioned, she has made a short film. It'll take up about 8 minutes of your time. It's available on the Times website and it is well worth a viewing. Lovely to see you.
Thank you ever so much.